they remain rooted to the bottom of the standings. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Nottingham Forest have taken a giant step towards securing their Premier League status after claiming a sensational 5-0 victory away at Sunderland on Friday night. A Trey Hume own goal got Forest up and running before Chris Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White and Igor Jesus added 3 more goals in the space of 6 first half minutes. Elliot Anderson then rounded off the scoring in second half stoppage time. The result has moved Forest 8 points clear of the relegation zone. They're on 39 points and no top flight team has been relegated with that total or more since 2011. It also ramps up the pressure on their relegation rivals West Ham and Tottenham. Elsewhere, and there was also a big game in the Championship on Friday night with Macaulay Langstaff scoring a 90th minute equaliser for Millwall away at already relegated Leicester. That point was enough for the Lions to move up to second in the standings, but they are only a point clear of Ipswich in third, and the Tractor Boys have 2 games in hand. If Ipswich get a point at West Brom on Saturday lunchtime, then they will move back into the automatic promotion positions. Elsewhere, and in golf, Nelly Korda is in control of the first women's major of the year, the Chevron Championship, at the halfway stage. She fired her second successive round of 65 on Friday to move on to 14 under par, 6 shots clear of nearest rival Patti Tavatanakit. Elsewhere in golf, and English brothers Matt and Alex Fitzpatrick are continuing their fine seasons after they carded the round of the day at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, which is a pairs event on the PGA Tour. The Fitzpatrick brothers carded a 7 under 65 to move on to 15 under for the tournament, just 1 shot behind leaders American pair Alex Smalley and Hayden Springer. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, there were 3 Super League matches that took place on Friday. First of all, Leeds Rhinos remain top of the standings after they carded an 8-try win over Catalan's Dragons at Headingley, prevailing at 46-4. Warrington are just behind the Rhinos in second place after they inflicted more misery on Wigan Warriors, claiming a 23 points to 6 success, whilst Hull FC were also amongst the tries. They were really impressive as they demolished Castleford by 50 points to 10. Finally, in Rugby Union, there was 1 match in the Prem on Friday night, and it was a big one as Bristol Bears won 52-19 away at Newcastle Red Bulls. That result for the Bears has moved them back into the top 4 of the standings, albeit they are just a point clear of 5th placed Exeter, having played a game more. For the Red Bulls, that was their 13th defeat in 14 Prem games this season, and they remain rooted to the bottom of the standings. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Nottingham Forest have taken a giant step towards securing their Premier League status after claiming a sensational 5-0 victory away at Sunderland on Friday night. A Trey Hume own goal got Forest up and running before Chris Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White and Igor Jesus added 3 more goals in the space of 6 first half minutes. Elliot Anderson then rounded off the scoring in second half stoppage time. The result has moved Forest 8 points clear of the relegation zone. They're on 39 points and no top flight team has been relegated with that total or more since 2011. It also ramps up the pressure on their relegation rivals West Ham and Tottenham. Elsewhere, and there was also a big game in the Championship on Friday night with Macaulay Langstaff scoring a 90th minute equaliser for Millwall away at already relegated Leicester. That point was enough for the Lions to move up to second in the standings, but they are only a point clear of Ipswich in third, and the Tractor Boys have 2 games in hand. If Ipswich get a point at West Brom on Saturday lunchtime, then they will move back into the automatic promotion positions. Elsewhere, and in golf, Nelly Korda is in control of the first women's major of the year, the Chevron Championship, at the halfway stage. She fired her second successive round of 65 on Friday to move on to 14 under par, 6 shots clear of nearest rival Patti Tavatanakit. Elsewhere in golf, and English brothers Matt and Alex Fitzpatrick are continuing their fine seasons after they carded the round of the day at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, which is a pairs event on the PGA Tour. The Fitzpatrick brothers carded a 7 under 65 to move on to 15 under for the tournament, just one shot behind leaders American pair Alex Smalley and Hayden Springer. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, there were 3 Super League matches that took place on Friday. First of all, Leeds Rhinos remain top of the standings after they carded an 8-try win over Catalan's Dragons at Headingley, prevailing at 46-4. Warrington are just behind the Rhinos in second place after they inflicted more misery on Wigan Warriors, claiming a 23 points to 6 success, whilst Hull FC were also amongst the tries. They were really impressive as they demolished Castleford by 50 points to 10. Finally, in Rugby Union, there was one match in the Prem on Friday night, and it was a big one as Bristol Bears won 52-19 away at Newcastle Red Bulls. That result for the Bears has moved them back into the top 4 of the standings, albeit they are just a point clear of 5th placed Exeter, having played a game more. For the Red Bulls, that was their 13th defeat in 14 Prem games this season, and they remain rooted to the bottom of the standings. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Nottingham Forest have taken a giant step towards securing their Premier League status after claiming a sensational 5-0 victory away at Sunderland on Friday night. A Trey Hume own goal got Forest up and running before Chris Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White and Igor Jesus added 3 more goals in the space of 6 first half minutes. Elliot Anderson then rounded off the scoring in second half stoppage time. The result has moved Forest 8 points clear of the relegation zone. They're on 39 points and no top flight team has been relegated with that total or more since 2011. It also ramps up the pressure on their relegation rivals West Ham and Tottenham. Elsewhere, and there was also a big game in the Championship on Friday night with Macaulay Langstaff scoring a 90th minute equaliser for Millwall away at already relegated Leicester. That point was enough for the Lions to move up to second in the standings, but they are only a point clear of Ipswich in third, and the Tractor Boys have 2 games in hand. If Ipswich get a point at West Brom on Saturday lunchtime, then they will move back into the automatic promotion positions. Elsewhere, and in golf, Nelly Korda is in control of the first women's major of the year, the Chevron Championship, at the halfway stage. She fired her second successive round of 65 on Friday to move on to 14 under par, 6 shots clear of nearest rival Patti Tavatanakit. Elsewhere in golf, and English brothers Matt and Alex Fitzpatrick are continuing their fine seasons after they carded the round of the day at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, which is a pairs event on the PGA Tour. The Fitzpatrick brothers carded a 7 under 65 to move on to 15 under for the tournament, just one shot behind leaders American pair Alex Smalley and Hayden Springer. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, there were 3 Super League matches that took place on Friday. First of all, Leeds Rhinos remain top of the standings after they carded an 8-try win over Catalan's Dragons at Headingley, prevailing at 46-4. Warrington are just behind the Rhinos in second place after they inflicted more misery on Wigan Warriors, claiming a 23 points to 6 success, whilst Hull FC were also amongst the tries. They were really impressive as they demolished Castleford by 50 points to 10. Finally, in Rugby Union, there was one match in the Prem on Friday night, and it was a big one as Bristol Bears won 52-19 away at Newcastle Red Bulls. That result for the Bears has moved them back into the top 4 of the standings, albeit they are just a point clear of 5th placed Exeter, having played a game more. For the Red Bulls, that was their 13th defeat in 14 Prem games this season, and they remain rooted to the bottom of the standings. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Nottingham Forest have taken a giant step towards securing their Premier League status after claiming a sensational 5-0 victory away at Sunderland on Friday night. A Trey Hume own goal got Forest up and running before Chris Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White and Igor Jesus added 3 more goals in the space of 6 first half minutes. Elliot Anderson then rounded off the scoring in second half stoppage time. The result has moved Forest 8 points clear of the relegation zone. They're on 39 points and no top flight team has been relegated with that total or more since 2011. It also ramps up the pressure on their relegation rivals West Ham and Tottenham. Elsewhere, and there was also a big game in the Championship on Friday night with Macaulay Langstaff scoring a 90th minute equaliser for Millwall away at already relegated Leicester. That point was enough for the Lions to move up to second in the standings, but they are only a point clear of Ipswich in third, and the Tractor Boys have 2 games in hand. If Ipswich get a point at West Brom on Saturday lunchtime, then they will move back into the automatic promotion positions. Elsewhere, and in golf, Nelly Korda is in control of the first women's major of the year, the Chevron Championship, at the halfway stage. She fired her second successive round of 65 on Friday to move on to 14 under par, 6 shots clear of nearest rival Patti Tavatanakit. Elsewhere in golf, and English brothers Matt and Alex Fitzpatrick are continuing their fine seasons after they carded the round of the day at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, which is a pairs event on the PGA Tour. The Fitzpatrick brothers carded a 7 under 65 to move on to 15 under for the tournament, just 1 shot behind leaders American pair Alex Smalley and Hayden Springer. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, there were 3 Super League matches that took place on Friday. First of all, Leeds Rhinos remain top of the standings after they carded an 8-try win over Catalan's Dragons at Headingley, prevailing at 46-4. Warrington are just behind the Rhinos in second place after they
from finding the back of the net. David Raya wasn't getting there, and Bruno Guimaraes searching for his 10th league goal of the season. Wasn't far away to giving Newcastle an early lead.
It's almost a standing shot, isn't it? He's virtually got no run up to it, but he gets a lot of power behind that, and it's only just over the bar.
Yeah, only just. But a couple of big opportunities early on for Newcastle. Arsenal looking a little bit porous in possession, as they're now looking to try and play out from the back. Long ball sent forward by Declan Rice. It's not a bad one. It's brought down by Madueke, and then the ball forward to Havertz is a poor one, and it's all the way back at the feet of Nick Pope. Just give me a chance to run you through the lineups in full, though. For Arsenal, it's David Raya in goal. A back four of Hincapié, Gabriel, Saliba and White. Midfield 3 of Rice, Zubamendi and Ødegaard, with Eze and Madueke continuing to support Kai Havertz through the middle. As for Newcastle, it's Pope in goal. A back 4 of Miley, Chow, Botman and Byrne. Midfield 3 of Guimaraes, Tonali and Ramsey, with Murphy and Willock supporting Will Asula as the lone striker. And I think there were 2 big decisions being made by 2 managers at the moment for Arsenal. For Arsenal and Newcastle. Mikel Arteta continuing to persist with Kai Havertz through the middle over Victor Gyökeres. Eddie Howe continuing to persist with Will Asula through the middle rather than either Voltemada or Wissa. I didn't think it worked out on Sunday for Mikel Arteta with Kai Havertz, but I don't know whether Gyökeres would have been the answer to that game. I'm not too sure. With Will Asula, I mean, that chance earlier on kind of tells you all you need to know about him, but then Wissa and Voltemada haven't played well this season either, so
No,
how do you go about it?
It's a difficult one because Voltemada started off okay, but then he just seemed to completely lose his confidence.
Yeah.
And actually, a couple of pundits, including a very famous ex-Newcastle striker pundit, have made it very clear that they're not impressed with Voltemada at all. Asula, I was actually on commentary when he scored that fabulous winner for Newcastle at home to Manchester United, but that's a rare glimmer. He's not really been able to hit the ground running at all.
No, he certainly hasn't. I'm sure we will see plenty of him in this game, as I'm sure we'll see plenty of Kai Havertz, and maybe we'll get a glimpse of Gyökeres, Voltemada, or Wissa as the game goes on. We'll have to wait and see. Arsenal have got themselves on a counter-attack here. Newcastle have massively overcommitted. Havertz ran offside initially, but eventually he's found by Ødegaard and onside as well. Didn't really know what he wanted to do with it there, Havertz. In the end, all he can do is win a corner. That should have been so much better for Arsenal than it was, because they had the numbers there.
They had the numbers there. I think Havertz wanted that ball early. Once he realised he wasn't going to get it early, he stayed onside and got that pass, but then he needed to have played that ball a little bit sooner. I think he looked up and realised it was only Eze in the penalty area, but get it into the area now. He could have actually crossed it there. Then he takes a touch, puts it back onto his left foot, and then gets the consolation of a corner.
Yeah, he wasn't actually offside for as long as I thought he was, because he was in his own half, and that's why he drives forward. And then ultimately, as soon as that pass isn't played, you're going to be offside because you've made that commitment inside your own half. Chance now, though, from the corner for Arsenal. We know how dangerous they've been from corners this season. They created some decent opportunities from set pieces as well against Manchester City, unable to score any of them. This time they take it short. Ødegaard with a dreadful pass looking for Eze on the edge of the penalty area, almost sees the ball taken away from him by Joe Willock, the former Arsenal man, but eventually Arsenal get it back and they work it well. Madueke, ball across the 6-yard box, nobody there to tap it in, and this is why I have a problem with Havertz through the middle, because Gyökeres surely finds himself making that 1-0.
Well, you'd like to think that Gyökeres is that more sort of natural striker. I think the reason why Havertz, because we mentioned the Newcastle, I think the reason why Havertz is getting the nod over the last few games, he has got a couple of big goals for Arsenal, and I think that there is a little bit of doubt over Gyökeres, although I still think both of them fit. I probably would start with Gyökeres in a game like this, just because he's more likely to find those scraps in the penalty area. But we'll see now with Madueke, who's ready to take this corner.
Yeah, raises his right arm and then plays it short once again to Ødegaard. Are they going to try the same thing again? They are. Newcastle don't read it this time. Eze with the effort wide of the near post. Arsenal think there was a deflection. Have to see a replay. I'm pretty sure the referee has given a goal kick. Let's have a look. Surprised that Newcastle didn't deal with this better, given that they dealt with it the first time. Arsenal run the exact same set piece routine. On this occasion, though, Eze afforded time and space to have an effort towards goal, and on his left boot, it's gone just wide. Now, did it take a deflection? Let's have a look from the replay. Well, the cameraman's completely missed it there.
He has.
Let's trust the referee and suggest that it doesn't. But Newcastle have got to be careful.
They have got to be careful as well, and I mean, Eze there, he actually had 2 or 3 seconds where he could control the ball and go for goal. He had 2 or 3 square yards of space as well that Newcastle got to, but now a ball is going to be here through Madueke.
Yeah, Madueke's got on goal side of his man, but with the loose touch, Chow is able to come across brilliantly and put in a challenge. Again, Newcastle looking very open at the back, but Madueke lacking the composure to keep the ball under control and get in behind. It's a lovely ball through to him. He's so much quicker than Sven Botman, but that first touch is so loose and it's an easy challenge for Malik Chow.
I mean, he is quicker than Botman, but Botman should have got that ball before it even got into Madueke. He was just a little bit slow to react as to where that ball was, and as soon as Madueke has a couple of good runs, the camera focuses on the man he's replaced over the last few months, of course, back on the bench after an injury, Bukayo Saka.
Yeah, I'm sure we will see him feature at some point this afternoon. Great to see him back on the bench from a neutral's point of view, and if you're an Arsenal fan as well. Another corner taken short. This time, though, it's rolled into the penalty area, laid off to Eze. Oh, yes! What a goal that is! Ebere Eze with an absolute screamer. They've been warned on 2 occasions now, Newcastle United. On the 3rd time of asking, 9 minutes gone, Eze makes it 1-0 with an absolute thunderbolt into the far corner. Arsenal 1, Newcastle United 0.
Well, it's not as if Newcastle can say that this has come from nowhere, because Arsenal have tried this every time they've had a corner. They're looking for Eze at the edge of the area, and on this occasion, rather than going for it with his left, he goes for it with his right. What a fabulous hit this is as well. Madueke once again with the arm up. Once again, it's a short ball. This time it's not to Ødegaard, though. They find Havertz. He goes back to Madueke, and it's the way he measures that shot. He knows exactly where he wants to put it, and that's exactly where it goes.
That is so poor from a Newcastle Newcastle point of view, but take nothing away from Ebere Eze.
That.
It's delightful. He came agonisingly close to scoring against Manchester City last weekend. This time he does find the far corner. Mikel Arteta absolutely delighted. Look how much that goal means to him. And Arsenal inside 10 minutes have the goal they were so desperately craving. A right smile on the face of Ebere Eze. I love this. The camera straight away panned over to Nicholas Jova, the Arsenal set-piece coach. He cannot take any credit for that. That's all Ebere Eze with that finish.
It is. I mean, the idea that he would have told Eze to stand there because what? Because without a set-piece coach, players have never stood at the edge of the area for a shot from a set-piece before, have they? I mean, it's a little bit sort of manufactured the way they've done that. But listen, there's been so much talk of Arsenal being a set-piece side. I think it's almost like a point of pride with them that we can actually do something else from a set-piece than just lump it into a big defender to head it in, and we can actually use that set-piece for something a little bit more intricate. And they warned Newcastle twice. That's what they were going to do. Yep. And on each occasion, Newcastle weren't closing Eze down. No,
absolutely not. And it's now about how the Magpies respond. They've been the first to score in 6 of their last 8 coming into this one. Have Newcastle United. Well, they've conceded first and early in this one. But both teams have scored in 9 of their last 10 games. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of this goes. They've also got a good record at scoring first against Arsenal, being the first scorer in 5 of the last 6. But they've lost their last 3 against the Gunners and haven't kept a clean sheet in the last 3 either. It's a poor start for Eddie Howe's side as the pressure mounts on the former Bournemouth manager. But they're looking for a response straight away as Bruno Guimaraes drives the ball forward. A reminder that there are 2 other games available on this service at the moment in case you wanted to have a listen to something else. It's the first FA Cup semi-final this evening at Wembley. It's Manchester City 0, Southampton 0. That game kicked off 15 minutes before ours. That game available on the service along with Celtic versus Falkirk in the Scottish Premiership. That game did kick off at 5:30 along with our game, so we're in sync with those in Glasgow. Try and keep updated on the scores in both games as best as I can, but mine and Paul's focus will remain on the game at the Emirates, which it is Arsenal 1, Newcastle United 0. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary, 12 minutes gone. Newcastle have just lost the ball on the edge of the Arsenal penalty area, and nearly a counter-attacking opportunity there for the Gunners, but Kai Havertz just can't get it under control, and the visitors get possession back. They look really susceptible to a counter-attack Newcastle. I know it's easy to continue to berate the away side because they're 1-0 down and because they've lost their last 4 and they're not playing well. But the problems are there to see, which I think almost makes it more frustrating for Newcastle fans because it feels like there is an easy fix, or at least the problems are obvious and they're just not being fixed.
It does. I mean, I think that the problem I think Newcastle fans have is, as you say, that there have been issues in terms of their defence, there have been issues in terms of their midfield and their attack, which have been clear to see for a long time. There's also an issue over the goalkeeper. Who's their first goalkeeper? Ramsdale's back on the bench today. Pope's back in goal. You could argue that on their day, they're both clearly good enough to be Newcastle keepers, but they both also have that many personal individual errors in their game that neither of them might be good enough as the first starting keeper.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never a good thing, is it, when a manager doesn't know who their first choice goalkeeper is, because it doesn't instill any confidence to the man in between the sticks.
Just on that, do you think that there's an issue with Ramsdale not playing at the Emirates? Do you think that they were worried that might be too much pressure on him?
I don't know. I really don't know. I really like Aaron Ramsdale. I think he's a fantastic goalkeeper, and I think he's better than Nick Pope. He's not been playing brilliantly recently, but who in a Newcastle shirt has been. I think ultimately it's an area they're going to have to look to try and resolve in the summer. It obviously depends who their manager is next season. It depends what style of football they want. I can almost guarantee Nick Pope will not be at the club next season. He's out of contract.
He is, yeah. I mean, there's also the underlining thing that we now know that Saudi money isn't going as far into sport as it perhaps might have been. We know that the LIV tournament, the LIV Golf Tour is under severe threat, and it's that same fund that was also largely sort of financing Newcastle. So there may be a sort of course, with financial fair play, Newcastle have been a little bit hamstrung in terms of using a lot of that money anyway, but it might be that their spending is even more restricted by the summer.
Well, exactly. That's something to bear in mind, because it feels like there's a lot of surgery needed on this squad and potentially within the coaching staff as well. But as things stand, It's just Arsenal knocking the ball around in midfield. I'll tell you what, Eze's done brilliantly there to leave that for Kai Havertz. His pass, though, looking towards Ødegaard, wasn't great. Easily intercepted. And the Magpies have the ball back. The ball at the feet of Sven Botman. Into Bruno Guimaraes. Back to Malik Chow and into Guimaraes once again. Held up well by Zubimendi, who's had a tricky last month or so. It almost feels like Arsenal's form has sort of curtailed along with Zubimendi's form. There's very much a correlation between the two as Newcastle continue to come forward, as Ramsey's afforded the space to drive into the attacking third. Here's Murphy now, far side. That's a great ball in, crucial header up in the air though by Gabriel. Gathered now on the near side by Asula, one-on-one with Madueke. He'll fancy himself here, Will Asula, as he swings another decent ball in, this time towards Dan Burn. Again though, Gabriel clears away, and this time Arsenal can look to drive forward, although Rice can't get a hold of that pass from Eze, and Tonali has it back. Here's Willock over onto the far side now for Miley, into the midfield for Sandro Tonali once again. Just lays it off for Murphy. Ball in from deep. Nowhere near Asula. Headed away this time by Saliba. Still though, Arsenal can't get it clear. Tonali now. He's been pulled back for a handball as the ball was kicked against him by Martin Zubimendi. Good spell that for Newcastle. Just couldn't quite get the shot off on goal to test David Raya. But some real quality with those deliveries into the box.
There's still a big attacking threat here from Newcastle. And actually, when we look at the stats, the ball has spent more time in front of Arsenal's goal than it has in front of Newcastle, with the majority still being in midfield. But the fact there's a slight percentage advantage there for Newcastle going forward, they'll take that as a sign as they win the ball back there. Was there a foul on Zubimendi? There wasn't, but just seconds later, Bruno Guimaraes has robbed of the ball anyway, and Arsenal will win it back. So I think from Newcastle's point of view, they're just going to try and keep pushing, because Arsenal will still feel a little bit sensitive with the situation, and if Newcastle can get an equaliser, then you will see, I think, a change in the way Arsenal are playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's William Saliba for the Gunners. Lays it off to Martin Ødegaard, who will step forward towards halfway before just laying it off to Declan Rice. Into Zubimendi once again. Now Martin Ødegaard. A crossover onto the far side for Gabriel. That's a cracking ball in behind for Kai Havertz, who just wasn't quite quick enough to latch onto the end of it, and Nick Pope will clear down the other end of the field. Gabriel's having a really great start to this game and was almost on target in terms of playing a delightful ball through to Kai Havertz. Newcastle straight away get back onto the front foot though once they have possession. Here's Jacob Murphy, far side, wants to skip away from Hincapié. We'll go back to Malik Chow. Chow down the line for Miley. Here's Bruno Guimaraes. Got options left and right. We'll just knock it back to Botman. Botman now over onto the far side for Chow. Down the line to Willock. Willock, decent ball further down the line towards Miley, crossing to the box. Good hands from David Raya, who straight away wants to get Arsenal moving quickly. When he sees there are no sensible options, he just holds on to it for a moment, and will then very quickly, once Michael Oliver starts counting, launch it long towards Kai Havertz. He won't win a header all day up against Sven Botman, will he? Up top, Kai Havertz, and the ball's going to come straight back at Arsenal as Newcastle will try and move forward. Here's Dan Burn down the left-hand side for Jacob Ramsey. One-on-one with Ben White, slows it up, then plays the overlapping run of Willock, who's away from Ben White. Joe Willock with the effort. He struck it nicely, but it's far too central and a comfortable save for David Raya. Yeah,
standing save for David Raya, but to say it, Newcastle are starting to find their feet in terms of possession. They've actually got 60% possession to Arsenal's 40 after 18 minutes. So Eddie Howe can be happy with the way his side are trying to move the ball, and the way that they're pressing high up the field as well. But it does leave a risk. 2 or 3 occasions now we've seen Arsenal trying to hit counter-attacks from the halfway line, because Newcastle are playing very, very high.
Yeah, they certainly are. As we mentioned earlier, susceptible to counter-attacks at Newcastle with the way that they play. As Saliba now has it for the home side. Back to David Raya. Raya now looking for options around him. Thought about sending the ball long over the top. Instead, we'll just lay it off to Declan Rice. Here's Martin Ødegaard. Back to Rice once again, who's almost played the Zubimendi role here and dropping in between the two centre-halves to pick the ball up. He gets the ball over and drives into Newcastle territory. Here's Martin Ødegaard now. Thought about switching the ball over onto the far side for Iberi Eze. We'll take a few touches closer towards the former Palace man before eventually rolling it along the floor. Here's Eze, away from a couple in black and white, before attempting the ball into the box. It's well defended, and now maybe a chance for Newcastle to come forward. Murphy looking to try and feed his Sula. Pass is intercepted well. Newcastle will keep hold of the ball. Here's Sandro Tonali. Tonali square to Botman. Botman down the near side will feed Jacob Ramsey. who doesn't fancy taking on Noni Madueke, and we'll just go back to Sven Botman, and Newcastle just allow Arsenal to get back into their defensive shape once more. Still 0-0 in the FA Cup semi-final, as Tonali thought he was fouled there by Zubimendi. Referee says no, play continues. Here's Madueke inside the penalty area, onto his stronger left foot. Madueke still going. Why didn't he pull the trigger? Eventually Bruno Guimaraes will put the challenge in, and Newcastle, despite being really frustrated with Sam Barrett there, do well enough to get the ball clear.
Madueke, I don't know if he's waiting for a written invitation to have a shot or what. I mean, he had enough time. He had that little window when he was in the middle of the penalty area on his left foot, and then he wants another touch. Yeah,
it's really odd from Noni Madueke. It's a big opportunity. I thought there was maybe a play down there because everything stopped to a walking pace, but that was actually just Arsenal slowing it down for a moment, as they now look to try and move the ball forward again with Declan Rice. Here's Martin Ødegaard stepping closer towards the final third, as he's got options left and right. Holds on to it for a moment and then plays, I thought, a decent looking ball towards Ben White, but actually it's a really poor pass, not on the same wavelength, and out of play for a goal kick. It almost just feels like it's two contrasting styles. Newcastle wanting to play quick, front-footed football all the time, and Arsenal, now they've got that early lead, more than happy just to sit.
They're quite happy to sit because they can see that there's that countering opportunity that you mentioned that from the very start. Newcastle are open to that, and it does mean that Arsenal will feel it's a difficult balance for Arsenal. It's almost like we'll let Newcastle have a little bit of possession and then try and hit them with a counter, which in and of itself can always have a bit of risk.
Yeah,
but I think that Arsenal will feel that because they have got that one goal lead, they'll feel confident. The only issue is if Newcastle have another 5-minute spell where they're in front of the Arsenal penalty area again.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just asking for a mistake to be made, aren't you? And Newcastle have got to try and force that error. As here's Malik Chow, lays it off to Sandro Tonali. Tonali with options around him. We'll just move it square to Botman. Botman down the line for Byrne, inside for Ramsey, surrounded by two in red. Holds onto the ball well and just plays it back to Botman. Byrne gets it back once more and will float one over the top wing towards Asula. Saliba deals with it brilliantly, and the ball's back at the feet of David Raya, or in the hands of David Raya, I should say. Quickly balls it out to William Saliba. And here's Zubimendi. Zubimendi floats one over the top wing towards Madueke, brings it down brilliantly. He's got runners left and right. Instead, will shoot towards goal, and well, that's a massive waste as it p-rolls into the hands of Nick Pope.
Well, this is what I don't get about me. He's such a frustrating player, Madueke, because he's got so much talent, but then he's 10 yards in front of goal. He's on his left foot. He's full of running. All he's got to do is smash the ball towards goal. He's likely to score, and he doesn't. And on that occasion, he's got no momentum, no run-up, and he just rolls it from 30 yards straight to the goalkeeper, and now he's not even got back from an offside position.
Yeah, really odd player, Noni Madueke. I'm a big fan of his. You just, to take that next step, to be that player for Arsenal, you've got to be more consistent, and he just really isn't at the moment, as Ødegaard almost finds himself with a great opportunity on the edge of the penalty area, but he's challenged brilliantly by Chow, and now Tonali's fed Asula into the final third, and here comes Will Asula, away from a couple, surely fouled there by Saliba. Yes, brilliant from Will Asula, and that's going to be a free kick in a dangerous area for Newcastle United. He's capable of that, Will Asula, and that's why he's even more baffling than Madueke, to be honest with you, because you see things like that, like the goal against Manchester United, where you go, wow, like, fair enough. And then you just see moments like the first minute this afternoon.
The technical skill is there, I think, for the Dane, without a doubt. I just think it's a case of whether he's ever going to be given 10, 15 games straight to really get into a rhythm and actually use those 10, 15 games to get some goals and to really start to make a name for himself as a regular Premier League player rather than a super sub or somebody who plays when 2 or 3 other forwards are injured.
Yeah, totally agree. Opportunity now, though, from the free kick. Bruno Guimaraes standing over it, takes a deep breath. It's pretty much in line with the corner of the penalty area. Sort of a diagonal line to goal. The big boys are up from the back. They've got a couple lingering on the edge of the penalty area of Newcastle. Bruno Guimaraes will float it in towards the near post. Havertz with the header. Ramsey then puts it back into the danger zone. Ultimately, though, out to play it for a goal kick. We're into the second quarter of this one. Fascinating game so far. Arsenal lead a goal to nil, courtesy of that early strike from Ebere Eze. I'm going to hand it over to Paul to take us through to half-time.
Thank you very much, Luke. Yes, and just as we do that, I've had a quick glance at the stats for the game at Wembley. and so far it's 0-0 still in that game. City have had 5 shots, one of them's been on target. Southampton have not had any kind of effort at all, so it's no surprise really. It's going to be quite a cagey affair with City controlling a lot of the ball and Southampton just trying to make do before they can get potentially a set piece or a counter attack. But we'll see how that one goes. It's as I say, just a very quick tangent on that one. It's incredible what Tom de Rijkaard's done at Southampton when you consider that when his predecessor was sacked, he actually made a statement saying, well, there's no quick fix at Southampton, but clearly there is a quick fix at Southampton because they've been able to recover their season and they're still in with a decent shout of getting into the playoffs as well. But back here at the Emirates, Arsenal just enjoying a little bit of possession here inside their own half. Zubamendi now back towards Saliba, and it's over towards Declan Rice now. Newcastle still playing a very high line. Just to put it into perspective, Arsenal are just on their side of the centre circle and the Newcastle back 4 are only 10 yards away from their half of the centre circle, so they're really not giving Arsenal any space at all.
No, they're not, and I think that shrewd City did well at times last weekend by sort of cramping Arsenal for space. Just to say that it opens up for Madueke.
It does. Madueke into Odegaard, who back heels that one into Zubamendi. He just couldn't quite keep his balance at the crucial moment there. Very intricate play there from Arsenal, but a quick round of applause for Odegaard, for his teammate there, because he could see what he was trying to do. Ben White doesn't waste any time in taking this throw. He goes back to Saliba. Saliba into Odegaard, who's got 2 Newcastle players on his back. He rolls away, gets it in towards Havertz. And now it's with Ben White. Back into Odegaard, just gets away from Willock. He might have been shoved to the ground actually by Willock, but the referee allows play to go on. Madueke through ball from Eze is just a little bit too quick. I think all things considered, Arsenal probably would have preferred that free kick around 25 yards out. Yeah,
quite possibly. He'd have been in a decent position, but Sam Barrett plays advantage and in the end, it just doesn't quite work out.
No, I think referees generally are always looking to try and play the advantage. I think there's, and us as fans and commentators, I think we generally get annoyed when the referee blows the whistle too soon. So it's probably a good idea to try and maintain the play for as long as possible. Zubamendi does well to keep that ball alive, and he finds Havertz at the edge of the area, and it's over towards Madueke. Madueke back into the box. Havertz gets it back to Madueke. They're running out of space here, Arsenal, and in the end, Tonali puts his foot through that and clears it to the halfway line where Osula will chase. But the last man back for Arsenal is Gabriel, and he has enough time to go back towards David Raya. And so the home side are back in possession here now, just trying to find a way through this Newcastle defence. They're trying to increase their lead as Eze tries to thread a ball in towards Havertz, but that's good covering there from Botman. Plays it over towards Tior, who's under a bit of pressure. He then goes back towards Nick Pope. Doesn't want to take too long on the ball. In the end, it's a decent clearance over the halfway line. It's over Osula's head, unfortunately, from Newcastle's point of view. And Arsenal have it back. Well, this seems to be developing into a bit of a pattern now. Arsenal in possession to get the ball into the Newcastle penalty area. Newcastle have it back and then they clear it and give it back to Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to Nick Pope, but I've never seen a footballer, and I know he's a goalkeeper, so you can kind of come up with an excuse. I've never seen a footballer more uncomfortable with the ball at his feet. He just, every time he has it, it almost looks like he's playing his sport he's never played in his life, and he's learning how to do it on the job. It just doesn't look natural. So if you're Arsenal, you're going, okay, we're fine. Like if Pope's going to have the ball a lot, that works for us. You know, that means we're doing something right. And I think they'll be pretty happy with the way the game's going in the minute. From a neutral point of view, it has sort of hit a bit of a lull, which is not ideal.
Not ideal. I think Newcastle just not really able to sort of upset Arsenal's possession, and Arsenal now push forward. Odegaard with a great through ball into Madueke into the 6-yard box. It's swept away out for a throw. And what you said about Pope, it's almost like he's come into the game 2 or 3 generations late. If he was around in the 70s and 80s, he wouldn't have to use his feet, and he may well have just been an excellent shot stopper, which is what goalkeepers needed to be back in those days. But of course, the using your feet element is a huge part of goalkeeping now. And especially when you look at someone like Man City, who are quite happy to get rid of an excellent goalkeeper just to bring in an even better one who's with his feet, with Ederson gone, and of course Donnarumma replacing him. But Arsenal lose possession at the edge of the Newcastle penalty area. Now Willock is off down the left-hand side. He's heading towards the penalty area. It was his run in the first minute that gave Newcastle some hope for a good afternoon this evening. That ball coming in from the left-hand side is blocked by Saliba, and it's a corner. They need to get the ball to Willock more.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not been as involved so far in this game as he possibly would have liked. They have players, Newcastle, who you think can drag them through this tricky patch and really get them down the other end of the field. It's about A, can they get those players in those positions, and B, do those players want to be, the ones that drag them forward? Tonali so far this evening has looked pretty unbothered, which surprises me.
Yeah, unless he's been perhaps told that he needs to be that one who's just staying back a little bit deeper to allow Guimaraes potentially. Well, we haven't seen much of Ramsey yet either, so it's maybe just be that central midfield needs to wake up as the corner kick comes in. It's a little bit of a scramble inside the 6-yard box before it's finally cleared. Then it's Ramsey who hooks that ball back into the penalty area, headed away by Rice, but then it drops to Tonali. Tonali then goes for goal, and that shot surprises Raya. He has to dive on the second effort before anyone can get the rebound. I think it must have either swerved or it must have come through a crowd of people, because that shot definitely surprised David Raya.
Yeah, it certainly did. It moves an awful lot, and there are a crowd of people in the way.
Look at that dip on that.
It's unbelievable. I'm not entirely sure he's managed to get the ball to do that, Sandro Tonali. David Raya, another goalkeeper I'm a pretty big fan of. I think he's an excellent goalkeeper. If I was a defender, I just don't know if I'd love having David Raya behind me. Everything is so twitchy, and it's all, action, and you see there, I mean, he makes the save, and then he doesn't immediately gather the ball. He palms it away then gathers it, and then every time he catches it, he's grabs it and sprints to the edge of the box. I just think everything is a million miles an hour with David Raya, and for me at least, I wouldn't want that behind me if I was a defender. Having said that, he is then also capable of bailing defenders out of trouble.
He certainly is. I think that there should be two modes to Raya. I think when Arsenal have a bit of urgency about their game, then he needs to be as urgent as that, but there should also be a slightly calmer mode. As a good run here from Guimaraes, gets it into Osula. Oh, he was surely fouled at the edge of the area there. And then there's another foul on Willock as well. The referee's allowed both of them to go, and he's just said it's going to be a goal kick. As far as I'm concerned, there should be at least one free kick to Newcastle there, if not two. Obviously saying that slightly tongue-in-cheek, but to me, I'm quite surprised. We'll see from the replay now. But to me, in fact, we're first of all replaying us the goal, which say there's no harm in seeing this again. But I was a little bit surprised that Newcastle didn't get a free kick there.
Yeah, me too. I think they were potentially both fouls. To be honest, it's interesting. We just got the stat pop up on our screen. I'm not a lover of short corners. I'm really not, and I always say Arsenal are the best at set pieces, and they don't take short corners. Well, they've only taken 6 all season. Today they've already taken 3. Obviously the goal comes from one. They've obviously identified something though, haven't they? Because if you don't take 6 short corners all season and then take 3 in a row at the start of a game, so they've blatantly established that Newcastle are too slow to get out or don't deal well with short corners.
I think it's that. I think it's also just, regardless of who they were playing today, they may have tried a couple of shorter corners anyway. We've got to break in play here now, because there is going to be, in fact, after all the talk of the free kicks that Newcastle might have had, it's actually an Arsenal player down on the ground, and it looks like it's Havertz.
Yeah, I think it's a hamstring problem for Kai Havertz. This was always likely to happen on his return from injury. To be honest, sounds bad, but I'm almost surprised it's taken this long for him to pull up with something over the last month or so since returning from injury. It doesn't look great. It's the last thing you want to see. He seems quite the character, Kai Havertz. The last thing you want to see players struggling with injury, and he has had a torrid time with injury. And this, by the looks of things, look like his race might be run already, and that would be a worry. Because this looks quite serious, and then you've also got the World Cup coming up as well. So this doesn't look great for Kai Havertz, it has to be said, and he is not happy whatsoever. You can tell on the face of Germany, he's beside himself. Just quickly, Celtic have taken the lead at home against Falkirk. Deza Maeda with that one, of course. Both Rangers and Hearts yet to play this weekend, but this result would move Celtic level on points with Hearts at the top of the table. They'll be on the second though on goal difference, but they'll move a point ahead of Rangers as we just see pictures of Kai Havertz trudging off the side of the field. The one positive you take from this is at least Victor Gyökeres is effectively a like for like replacement, but he does not look happy, Kai Havertz, and you can understand why.
No, he doesn't. I mean, he's had his injury problems, and he's another one. We mentioned it with Ben White earlier. He's another one of these players you just get the feeling that Arteta wants him to succeed. That there's something about the way that Havertz plays that Arteta likes. But as I say, doesn't matter how convinced a manager is about one of his players. There's only so often you can do that before you realise that, well, if he's not able to keep his place because he's constantly getting injured, there's constantly fitness and form issues, well, then you can't keep going on indefinitely. But certainly, with Gyökeres not quite hitting the ground running either. There was a real sort of urgency for Havertz to come back from injury, and it may well be that he's trying too hard, he's strained a bit too hard. But I'll break off from that though, because Arsenal are on the charge now here. Zubamendi does well to control that in midfield, goes down the left hand side. Hincapié's ball into the box when it eluded the first defender. Thiaw just allowed that one to go into the middle of the box, but thankfully for him it was Botman covering just behind. He clears it towards the half, and Arsenal come back again now with Gabriel sending a diagonal ball out towards the right hand side. He's got too much of a bounce on that one though. No chance for Madueke in the end, and a look back from Madueke to say to Gabriel, well, give me half a chance at least.
Yeah, he absolutely fired that, didn't he? The Brazilian looking towards Noni Madueke on the near side. I mentioned earlier there was a chance for Arsenal as the ball was cut back and Kai Havertz was nowhere to be seen. I thought, well, if they'd started Gyökeres, maybe that would have been a huge opportunity. First chance for Gyökeres to make a run. He went flying towards the back post, and that cross comes in. And I started thinking, that is not the run. He was never getting the ball in that position. So a real odd one from Victor Gyökeres, maybe just getting into the game, trying to feel it out, see where he feels he can attack this Newcastle back four. But yeah, an interesting start from the Swede.
Yes, needs to, as I say, Arsenal are certainly looking for that second goal. Well, 1-0 lead against any team in the Premier League is never going to be enough. But Newcastle, they've had these spells where they've put pressure on Arsenal, but their midfield still is struggling to match Arsenal in terms of actually having possession, as Rice trying to close down. It may well be that he fouled Bruno Guimaraes there. He did foul Bruno Guimaraes, says our referee. Sam Barrett, Newcastle have taken the free kick quickly. Joe Willock playing it back to Bruno Guimaraes. They're still deep inside the Newcastle half. Now he tries a long diagonal ball to pick out the run of Lewis Miley. Miley just about keeps that in play. And he's now been marshalled here by Hincapié, who does really well to win that ball back off Miley, and then Miley perhaps showing a little bit of youthful frustration there, just pulling back on Hincapié for the easiest free kick. Yeah,
he was another one who struggled last weekend. Piero Hincapié being asked to play in a different position. He likes playing his centre halves at fullback, doesn't he? Mikel Arteta. And so Hincapié, another one of those who, let's say centre half, a bit like Calafiori, playing on the outside of a back three. So are you even really a central defender when you're in that position? I don't really know, but yeah, he struggled last weekend, but he's done well so far in this one, despite not being asked too much of.
Well, no, there's a problem now for Newcastle as well, as Jacob Ramsey here's the deck. He was actually trying to close down on Eze. Eze then turned, and as he turned, I think he just caught Murphy, or indeed Murphy ran into Eze and caught him. But the Newcastle man was down. Is he still down? He's picked himself up now, Jacob Murphy. That's good to see. And Newcastle back in possession now with Joe Willock down the left-hand side. He's got an overlap from Dan Burn. He's reprising his role as the tallest left back in the Premier League. It's back over towards the right hand side now for Miley. That's a decent ball. It's just too high for Murphy. Won't get through. But now it's Burn. He decides to go for a shot from just outside the box. And yeah, just a slightly embarrassed smile there from the big man when he realises just how far wide that was. That was literally closer to being a throw-on than it was a goal kick.
Yeah, he's got to show more composure there, Dan Burn. I assume that's what Jason Tyndall's saying to Eddie Howe on the sideline. He brings that down with so much space and time, and he has to recognise that he is not the guy to take that on the half volley and smash it towards goal. I don't think Dan Burn has ever or will ever be the player to look to try and do that, so I'm not sure why he opted for the effort on that occasion, and that would have been a pretty decent opportunity for Newcastle if they'd worked it better.
Yes, I agree. I think that I can't imagine Burn ever doing anything like that in training, let alone in a big game, so he's just got to be a little bit more careful. It's half-time, by the way, at Wembley, and it's still 0-0 between Man City and Southampton. City with just a one effort on target, just the 2 corner kicks. Southampton with no attacking possession whatsoever, it would seem, and their XG is still at 0. Man City's is just 0.27, so it's the kind of cagey FA Cup semi-final I think that we were expecting, but maybe not for the whole of the first half. Credit to the Championship side, they've kept City at bay as they have done. But back here at the Emirates, it's Arsenal in possession now down the left here with Hincapié. Goes back in towards Rice. Zubamendi now playing it back towards Saliba. Now it's White with Madueke down the right-hand side, heading towards the edge of the area. Madueke then into White, gets it back. Hasn't got any options to go into the area himself. He goes in towards Odegaard, but he couldn't get the cross in either. Just too many Newcastle bodies in the way, and Arsenal in the end falls all the way back to the halfway line. Zubamendi now square to Saliba, and that Newcastle offside line shoots forward immediately as soon as Arsenal step back. Really are trying to make it difficult here for anything over the top here from Arsenal. Zubamendi in towards Rice. It's about 40 yards out from goal now. Here is Odegaard. Back to Ben White. It's just Gyökeres waiting inside the penalty area at this stage. It's back with Odegaard again. Still no easy way in for Arsenal. They're going to try again in midfield now with Saliba finding Odegaard. At the edge of the area, he goes in towards Madueke. It's all on the right-hand side for Arsenal. Odegaard again on his left foot, doesn't want to cross it. It's almost like Arsenal have run out of ideas.
Yeah, maybe, but I suppose at 1-0 with about 5 minutes to go until half-time, this is fine from Arsenal. I think you know, you've got your lead, you're managing the game. Keep a hold of the ball and just, you know, be happy with what you've got, at least for the moment, and then, you know, and then maybe come out in the second half, 15-20 minutes in the second half, go get yourself another goal. I always find it really difficult with the Gunners, just in terms of how they should go about games, because it's quite easy for us to go, well, they should be more attacking and they should be putting teams to the sword and this, that and the other. But things like this can happen when they give the ball away, and any team can give the ball away, and straight away the opposition are on the attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, in fairness, that ball was given away from a pass out from defence rather than in the final third. But I completely take your point that if Arsenal are 1-0 up, then there's no rush to get the ball into the box. But then, at the same time, they are only 1-0 up. You know, 1-0 is not going to be enough against Newcastle. They need a second goal to make sure they can just have a bit of a cushion, because Newcastle have always got a goal in them, despite some of the issues we described in terms of their strikers this season. And now with that free kick given away, it's a great opportunity this for the Magpies. They're about 40 yards, maybe about 35 yards out from goal, slightly over on the left-hand side. There won't be a shot here from Bruno Guimaraes, but there certainly could be a really dangerous whip ball in for one of those big men to try and attack. So we'll wait to see exactly how the Newcastle skipper wants to deliver this ball. There's nobody else stood there with him, so there's not going to be any other option. I think it will just be a direct cross here from Bruno, although he may surprise me and play it square to Sandro Tonali, who would have a long run up here because nobody's going to close him down in time for him to go for goal. That's what they've done. It is to Tonali. He then goes for goal, and actually, despite me suggesting that, the way that they actually executed it was so poor that an Arsenal player had to duck down at the edge of the area to head that away. It was a complete waste.
It's a terrible pass to Tonali. If you're going to set him up for that effort on goal,
run onto it, exactly.
Run onto it. Don't fire it straight to his feet. I think even Tonali knew as soon as he got that ball, it's like, what's happened here? He'd have probably been better giving it back to Bruno Guimaraes and asking him to float the ball in. Odd.
Well, the stats since Arsenal have scored, they've had one effort on target. Newcastle have had 8, and the possession is 50-50. So you certainly can't fault the visitors for trying to upset Arsenal here, but they just aren't really finding that one killer pass or that one movement in front of the penalty area to really give themselves a clear-cut opportunity. We've got around 3 minutes before we hit injury time. There'll be a couple of minutes of that as well, so probably about 5 minutes to go until the break. And it's Arsenal in possession here with Zubimendi on the left-hand side. Leaves the ball now for Hincapié. He plays it back towards Gabriel, being closed down by Jacob Murphy. Back to David Raya. Doesn't waste any time in going square to Saliba, who's been really harried here by Will Asula and almost forces Saliba out of play. But he does well, actually. Just skips away from Asula before giving the ball away with a pass down the right-hand side. Back towards Sven Botman. Botman square to Tior. Now it's with Miley, who, as I say, probably wouldn't have thought of himself as a right back. He is a central midfielder, really. But it just goes to show the problems that Newcastle have in that position. And he actually does really well there to dispossess Eze. Back to Tior. Now it's Bruno Guimaraes being closed down here by Declan Rice. And Bruno then switching play over towards the right-hand side now for Dan Burn. Plays it back to Botman. Botman just floats that one up in the air. It's almost given away, but it's Burn that steps in just to make sure that Ben White can't do it. But there's nothing that Burn can do about that. I mean, he bailed out Botman seconds earlier after that poor clearance, but this time Botman plays a square pass that's 2 yards behind Dan Burn.
Yeah, he's another one, Sven Botman, who just never seems comfortable on the ball to me. It always feels like there's a lot of panic. Him and Malik Chow are both clearly very talented footballers. I think they're both very, very good at certain things, but Chow's a bit jittery. He likes to dive in. Positionally, I think he's a little bit rogue. And then Sven Botman, as I said, just doesn't look like he's ever comfortable on the ball. And I know we'll say that it's this day and age, and beforehand players didn't need to be comfortable on the ball. No. But if you look back in from years gone by and you watched the greats like Alan Hansen or Marco Baresi or Daniel or Paolo Maldini, they didn't panic when they had the football at their feet. They just they just didn't get it as much.
No, I think the players you've just mentioned were arguably midfielders in terms of the quality of how they controlled the ball. It's just that they happen to also be excellent defenders. But no, I completely agree. And it is quite surprising when you think of all the one-touch and short passing that we see in modern football, that there are still so many outfield players who actually still feel like they'd be more comfortable just lumping it away every time. And of course, that's a finable offence at most clubs these days. Everyone has to play out from the back. So, as I say, you see goals like that in every league every week, where teams could have easily avoided the goal, but they can't clear it because the manager would be furious if they just punt it long, so they try and play out from the back and ended up getting themselves into a bit of a mess. But Arsenal back in possession here on the halfway line now with Zubimendi. He plays it forward, headed on here by Odegaard, but nobody in a red shirt in front of him, so Dan Burn will just watch that go out for a goal kick. And by the time Nick Pope restarts play, we would have seen our fourth official this evening, just to confirm how much added time there'll be at the end of this first half. I think I said 3 minutes before, and 3 minutes it is. I think that's just about right with the injury that we've had. Just to confirm, Celtic are now 2-0 up against Falkirk as that game ticks into half-time. And it is half-time already at Wembley. In fact, by the time we're back, by the time we go to half-time, they'll be getting close to restarting the second half in that game. Of course, extra time and penalties looms if that game is still level. All that will be available on our service, as indeed is the second semi-final tomorrow between Leeds and Chelsea. I'm fascinated to see how that one goes. Chelsea going to be playing like a side really let off the leash, or there's still going to be loads of problems left over from the previous manager. And what kind of Leeds team are going to come out? Are they going to try and go at Chelsea, or are they just going to try and sort of feel it out? It'll be a fascinating encounter, that one, tomorrow. But back here at the Emirates, Newcastle in a bit of possession here now, just inside their own half. No urgency to try and send it long. Arsenal are playing quite a high offside line as well, to be fair. Maybe not quite as high up the field as when Newcastle are trying to catch them out, but even so, they're not giving the visitors too much space to work with. But I think Eddie Howe and Jason Tiller, they've got to think of a couple of other options here, because with the amount of possession Newcastle have had, potentially they should have caused Arsenal more problems.
Yeah, they should have done, and it just kind of sums up the moment they're in as a team, to be honest. There's no confidence, there's no belief that somebody can pick the ball up in the final third and go, yeah, I'm going to do something here. They've also lost 3 games 2-1. I know scoring 3 goals in 3 games isn't too bad, but this Newcastle team have got players good enough, and they've spent enough money on forwards to be able to score a bit more than 3 and 3.
No, they've got to do that. And just as I've asked you about Newcastle, Arsenal, more of the same, or have they got to do anything particularly drastic at half time?
No, I don't think anything drastic, but I do think Arsenal have got to come out in the second half and and kill the game off. Show your quality. Do a little bit more. Cause Newcastle some issues. At the end of the day, this is a game that if you're an Arsenal fan, you say hopefully take us top of the table. They've only had 3 shots, and I'm not saying they're playing badly. Some would argue they're playing the game, so to speak. This has come back to bite them on enough occasions for them to have learned that they need to put Newcastle to the sword here.
No, they do, and that stat we just saw there, Arsenal have had 3 shots in this first half, Newcastle have had 9. Now, albeit those 9 shots, a lot of them have been blocked, 2 or 3 of them were skied over the bar, but the fact is that Arsenal have struggled to actually create clear-cut chances. We've only got a few seconds now of the added time left in this first half. Newcastle have a free kick. It's inside the centre circle. Sandro Tonali standing over it. Arsenal have set up just ahead of the D in front of their own penalty area with the offside. So we'll just see what kind of ball Tonali. This will be the last chance of the first half, I'm sure of that. As soon as the ball is cleared back into midfield, that should be it for this first 45. Tonali's ball is sent long. It's too long, in fact. It's into the arms of Raya, and he won't even have time to clear it because referee Sam Barrett calls time. It is Arsenal 1, Newcastle 0. We are back in 15 minutes.
Half-time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze, right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half-time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half-time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze, right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half-time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half-time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze, right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half-time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half-time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze, right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half-time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half-time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze, right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half-time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half-time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze, right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half-time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half-time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze, right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half-time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half-time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze, right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half-time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half-time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze, right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half-time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half-time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze, right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half-time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Mbere Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Difference between the two sides, an early goal from Eze, and what a goal it was. Corner taken short after 9 minutes, eventually finds its way to Eze right on the edge of the penalty area, who bends it beautifully into the far corner. Nick Pope with no chance, and Arsenal with an early lead. From there on, they've just controlled the game really, not really create anything, but neither of Newcastle, and it's been a pretty simple first half for the Gunners. They're currently top of the table at half time. It's Arsenal 1 at Newcastle United 0. Well, it's a very warm welcome back to this independent off-tube studio-based commentary of this Premier League fixture at the Emirates Stadium between Arsenal and Newcastle United. The two sides went in at half-time with the Gunners leading by a goal to nil, courtesy of an absolute beauty from Eze inside 10 minutes. After that goal, though, it's hard to say it was all Newcastle, but in terms of the chances and the way that the ball was headed, it was mostly Newcastle. It was certainly an interesting first half, shall we say. It's myself, Luke Ashurst, alongside me is Paul Shabakovic to take you through all of the action. Paul, no changes at half-time made by either side. Obviously, Arsenal were forced into that early change with Kai Havertz's injury. Are we shocked that Newcastle haven't changed anything? I mean, they maybe changed something tactically. We'll have to wait and see. Given that they did struggle to create too much in that first half, are we maybe surprised not to see somebody like a Voltemada or a Wissa?
Yeah, I think maybe Voltemada or a Wissa, looking at that bench, potentially maybe a Barnes or an Elanga as well, just to add a little bit of a sort of unexpected flair, just a little bit of pace out wide, just to give them something extra, because we made the point in the first half, they definitely had enough possession to have caused Arsenal problems, and actually for the amount of possession they had, they were probably disappointed it didn't cause them more problems. So whether or not they can address that now in the second half by doing more of the same, we'll have to wait and see. But of course, Arsenal are in a position they're already 1-0 up, so if they get a second goal, then they can start cruising then.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a second goal really does put them in the driving seat, and I expect Arsenal to come out in this second half and really go for that second goal. Newcastle, however, will make it as difficult as possible, I am sure. I'll run you through the lineups in a moment or so. Right now, though, it is the Magpies trying to come forward, as Ramsey has it on the edge of the centre circle, moves it across onto the near side for Chow, who will feed a nice ball forward for Guimaraes. Here's Miley, inside to Murphy, back to Guimaraes once more, edge of the penalty area for Willock, to the Newcastle skipper once again. He's away from Gyökeres and almost feeds a great ball through to Murphy. It will make it to Murphy, but it was behind the former Norwich man initially. And then double deflection, sees the ball out of play for a goal kick. So for Arsenal in goal, it's David Raya. The back four of Hincapié, Gabriel, Saliba and White. Midfield three of Rice, Zubimendi and Ødegaard, with Eze Madueke now supporting Victor Gyökeres as he came on for Kai Havertz in that first half. As for Newcastle, Pope in goal. A back four of Miley, Chow, Botman and Byrne. Midfield three of Willock, Tonali and Guimaraes, with Murphy and Ramsey supporting Will Asula up top. We've got a stoppage here from Sam Barrett. I'm not entirely sure what for. That's why we've got the stoppage, because the mic of the referee's assistant wasn't working, and as you can probably tell from Paul's sigh, this is not what we like to see. It looks as though we're going to get back underway pretty quickly.
Thankfully, this was a 15-20 second delay, but I've unfortunately had to commentate on a few occasions when it's taken a couple of minutes for the officials to get all their devices and all their radio equipment in order. But thankfully, this wasn't too much of a delay. And here come Arsenal now with a ball to the edge of the area here for Gyökeres.
Yeah, Gyökeres challenging for the ball after it bounces off the head of both Chow and Botman. Eventually, it's the Arsenal man that comes away with it somehow. Now it's with Hincapié. Edge of the penalty area for Gabriel. Now to Zubimendi. Thought about the ball into the box. Instead, we'll just feed Saliba. Now Ødegaard. A crossover onto the far side for White. Down the line for Madueke. One-on-one with Dan Burn. Wants it on his left boot. Gets it on his left boot. Then just lays it off to Ødegaard. Ødegaard will see it back now for Saliba. Saliba, ball forward down the far side for White. Ball towards the back post where Hincapié is there. He squares it across, and that's a chance. That is a chance, and it's not capitalised on. Ball cleared away by Lewis Miley for Asula to chase down the other end of the field, and he gets there ahead of Saliba. Does Will Asula, who's then challenged well by the Frenchman. But a big opportunity there for Arsenal goes a begging. That's a foul throw.
It is a foul throw.
Dear. Referee, you've got to stop that. I'll bring Paul in a second. Newcastle got an attack on here.
Shot put.
Yeah, that's terrible from Will Asula, and I can't believe Sam Barrett's not pulled that back. Here's Murphy down the near side, one-on-one with Berrieze. Back now to Malik Chow, and then onto the halfway for Botman. Here's Guimaraes back to Botman once more inside the centre circle. But yeah, going back to that Arsenal chance, they've worked that brilliantly. Hincapié with all the space in the world, and somebody inside the penalty area has got to do better.
Yeah, I mean, Eze was the one who ended up trying to go for it. Arsenal just need to create a few more of those chances. But, yeah, I mean, getting the Asula foul throw there. I mean, he literally didn't even put the ball behind his head. He just pushed it pretty much out of his hands. And it's almost like the referees aren't even looking for that offence anymore these days. Yeah,
no, it's really poor from the officials. So many players these days get away with foul throws, and just think it's embarrassing, to be honest. Consider it's meant to be the best league in the world, the Premier League. Things like that certainly put a stain on it. As here come Newcastle looking for an equaliser. Ramsey driving towards the edge of the penalty area, feeds Bruno Guimaraes. Now here's Lewis Miley back to the Brazilian once again, into Malik Chow. German centre half will fire it down the near side for Murphy. Decent ball for the underlapping run of Lewis Miley. Miley now edge of the penalty area for Guimaraes. Back to Miley once again. Great move this. Miley to the back post. Lovely touch from Ramsey. Ramsey ball in towards Asula. Saliba heads away. Sinali will nod back in towards the penalty area. Gabriel will flick up into the air. And eventually the offside flag will go up against Dan Burn inside the penalty area. As Berrieze has just taken a seat on the edge of the penalty area, which is not a good sign. Good move from Newcastle. We'll get on to Eze in a second. Just unable to find the final finish.
No, and I just wonder, when that ball was played back into the middle, maybe there was enough scope there for Ramsey to just go for goal himself. I thought he could have lifted that ball a little bit higher and tried to find the top corner himself rather than getting the cross in. As far as Eze is concerned, I mean, he had a big smile on his face when he was sat down on the ground, so it may well be that he just felt a slight twinge, but he knows it's nothing too serious. That said, though, the Arsenal coaching staff are now discussing there with Mikel Arteta potentially what they might have to do, and they're actually calling somebody over. I mean, they've still got Daumann, Gabriel Jesus, Lewis Skelly, Martinelli, Mosquera, Saka and Trossard. You've got to say that it's a very attacking bench from Arsenal.
Yeah, it is an extremely attacking bench from the Gunners. I suppose that's, well, A, it's down to who they have available to bring on, and B, I suppose it's a case of you're prepared to throw players on. I mean, realistically, throwing more defenders on for Arsenal is not going to make much of a difference because the defence is already so good.
Yes, absolutely, and we're getting another replay of that goal from Eze, because I think TV directors worked out, like we have, that he's likely to be going off anytime soon, so it's no harm in seeing this goal again. Really, the way he gets the lift and the curl to just arrow that into the corner is a superb goal. Yeah,
it really is. He's about to be replaced by Gabriel Martinelli, which is a crying shame because he's been fantastic so far at Berrieze. But fitness again, an issue for him, for Arsenal, and not what you want to see at all, a player of his quality. It was interesting, I was at a game earlier on having a conversation. The amount of players that are seemingly going down with injuries towards the back end of this season, not seen anything like it for quite some time. Every game somebody's being forced off with an injury at a minimum. In the Liverpool game earlier, there were 3 players who seemed to pick up an injury. As he's just saying to Mikel Arteta, it's fine, it's okay. It doesn't seem to be too serious for Eze, and he just didn't want to risk it. But it is honestly crazy the amount of players that are going down.
Do you think that's just as a precaution, or do you think that there's something else at play? Because when you think that these days top Premier League teams don't just have a physio or a doctor, they've got a whole medical squad working. They've got players' diets, they've got players' fitness levels, blood levels, everything they know. And yet, despite that, you go back to, say, the 80s or the 90s, where ex-footballers had done a quick course in how to become a physio, and they were pretty much the entire medical staff, apart from a doctor that would get called in on a sort of a freelance basis. And yet, the number of injuries back then seems to be a lot lower. So I'm not really sure what the actual sort of the reasoning behind that is. One sort of theory I've heard is that players these days have just got a much higher muscle composition than maybe players 20, 30 years ago. So there's more chance of pulling a muscle. Maybe there's some logic in that as
I mean, the games are more intense, aren't they? I mean, everything is played so quickly. It is, they are having to do an awful lot. I also think as well, potentially, some players don't. It sounds daft because obviously their diets are better than what you should. But I think sometimes players just don't necessarily take into consideration certain things. I do reckon there are some players that will go to training and then will just sit on the sofa for 6 hours afterwards, and that can't be good for you. I don't know. It's a weird one. I also think maybe players are a bit more soft, that if that's the word, a little bit more sensitive. If you feel a twinge, you're not going to play, and all of a sudden that twinge, it just doesn't go away.
I think there could be a correlation with the fact that we're in a World Cup season as well. Players are thinking that let's just not take any chances. I want to be fit for the World Cup. But Arsenal have a free kick here, ball in from Rice.
Yeah, it's not a bad ball in from Declan Rice either, and somehow nobody from either team gets a touch on it. I think the offside flag may have gone up against an Arsenal player inside the box as well. So either way, it's going to be a Newcastle ball.
Oh yeah, I mean Hincapie's
actually onside.
By the time that ball goes in, he is onside. And then, as I say, it probably was going to be a goal kick anyway. But yeah, that was one where Hincapie sort of started off in an offside position, but got level by the time the ball was being played in.
Yeah. There must be a nightmare for linesmen when those free kicks are taken, just trying to work out who's onside.
Particularly below the Premier League, because of course at Championship level they have to make that decision themselves, whereas at least in the Premier League they're getting a little bit of automated assistance as well.
Absolutely. Second half so far, 25% possession for Arsenal. I think maybe slight hope that Arsenal would go for it at the start of the second half from a neutral point of view. I don't put it this way. It hasn't been realised by Arsenal. They have not gone for it, and they're by looks of things, more than happy to sit and win this game 1-0. The question is can they do that? Because as poor as Newcastle are, it's the Premier League. Like, teams can get score from nowhere. They can do things. So I think this is maybe slightly daft.
No, it is, and you just got to think as well, we've still got just over half an hour to play in this game. What are both teams thinking? Because this 1-0 scoreline I don't think it's permanent. I say it could end up being that the game finishes 1-0, but something just tells me that there are more goals in this game, and certainly Arteta needs to think that Newcastle have had a bit of a slow start in this second half, but there is still certainly some potential for Newcastle to cause Arsenal problems.
100%. Ball over the top, looking towards Martin Odegaard. Has he been fouled? He has, and he's booked Dan Burn as well. He's not happy, Dan Burn. Let's have a look at the replay here. What Sven Botman's doing, I've got no idea. Dan Burn, I mean, it's the faintest of touch on Victor Gyökeres. That's not a foul. It's not a foul.
It's not a foul, but then you could argue why has Burn got his arms on him at all? Because I mean, Gyökeres is almost falling by himself anyway. But
it's football. That's what the players do. Like, it's a natural reaction. If a player's got goal side of you, you do try and throw him off a little bit. But Gyökeres has thrown himself, and it's just I would argue that's quite embarrassing from the Swede. But he won't care. He's won his side a free kick, and
in a very good position.
Yeah, in a very good position. I'll tell you what. Newcastle will be furious with Sam Barrett if Arsenal do anything from this. But B, they'll also be fuming with Sven Botman, because what on earth he was doing as that ball came over the top, I've got no idea.
No, I mean, after Burn heads the first one, there really should have been a Newcastle player onto the second one, but he allowed it to go to Gyökeres. Short free kick now from Odegaard.
Yeah, lays it off to Madueke with the effort, comfortably blocked by Dan Burn, and cleared away well by the former Brighton Hove Albion man. Disappointing that from Arsenal. The short ball from a set piece works once, and maybe this is just what we get from Arsenal now for the rest of the 90 minutes. We'll have to wait and see. Declan Rice now driving forward, though, in response for the Gunners. Long ball sent forward over onto the far side is intercepted well by Dan Burn, although gathered by Madueke. Ball into the box, a poor one, easily plucked out the air by Nick Pope. And he can just hold on to it and slow things down. Reminder of the two other games available on this service this evening. It's Manchester City 0, Southampton 0, and the first of two FA Cup semi-finals available this weekend. By all accounts, City have been the better of the two sides, but Southampton have held their own. Also in the Scottish Premiership, it's Celtic 2, Falkirk 0. Reminder And if things stay as they are and Celtic win by just the 2-0, they will leapfrog Rangers into second, but will be behind Hearts on goal difference, with Hearts and Rangers playing tomorrow. In case you're wondering, it's the Edinburgh Derby tomorrow, a game available on the service, which I believe me and you are doing, Paul, aren't we?
Yes, we absolutely are. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, it will be a fantastic game, as Mikel Arteta is absolutely furious down the near side. He thinks one of his players was fouled down the left wing.
I actually thought the opposite.
I thought
the Newcastle player was more fouled there.
It will not be the first time that we'll disagree with Mikel Arteta on one of those decisions, as there's a player down in a fair bit of pain. Sven Botman, that's really bad. I didn't realise Sven Botman was down with a head injury. Sam Barrett let the game go on for far too long there before stopping it. That had to be stopped instantly. I tell you what, the fourth official, I'm not entirely sure who it was, who it is on the near side, but the fact that they're allowing Mikel Arteta to be so far outside of his technical area, he was practically on the pitch there as play was moving down the near side. That should not be allowed. It's borderline dangerous.
It is. I mean, he's the referee is 10 yards away from him, and he is outside his technical area again. He does like to go for a little bit of a wander there, Mikel Arteta, and certain managers get told off a bit quicker. I was doing a championship game earlier today, and the QPR manager Stefan walked out of his technical area for a split second, and immediately the fourth official was calling him back. I mean, in fairness, the technical area at Loftus Road is probably a little bit shorter and narrower than what we get here at the Emirates. But even so, I think that the officials do have to keep an eye on that. But thankfully for Newcastle, Botman is back on his feet and he's ready to come back on the field as well.
Yeah, he is, which is good to see. It was an awkward one. He challenged Hincapié, who, as he was falling over the top of Botman, got clattered in the head with Hincapié's boot, which is obviously a bit of an awkward one, but he's okay. It continues now back onto the field as Newcastle have a free kick just inside Arsenal territory, just over an hour gone at the Emirates. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary. Arsenal 1, Newcastle 0. Here come Newcastle after the free kick, although Dan Burns done Arsenal's defending for them there as he nods away from danger. Bruno Guimaraes has been, I thought, fouled there in the midfield. Referee says no. Play will continue and the balls end up in the hands of David Raya. He's been left stricken, Bruno Guimaraes. I'm not entirely sure it was that bad of a challenge, I'll be honest. I think he's getting back up to his feet in a second, but it was definitely a foul that Sam Barrett didn't give. And now here come Arsenal down the other end of the field. Dan Burns taking the ball away from Madueke, and he's done brilliantly well, I thought, to win a goal kick. He's given a corner.
He has given a corner, and
Dan Burns on about the challenge on Bruno Guimaraes, isn't he?
I think he is. Yeah, I mean, Bruno Guimaraes has now picked himself up and he's run back to remonstrate with the referee. But there's no need to. There's no point in taking this into a long debate, because at the end of the day, the corner kick has been given and Newcastle have a set piece to defend.
Yeah, he's really not happy, Dan Burn, and Guimaraes wasn't either. I just think once the free kick's not given, get back up and get on. He was on the floor for quite some time, Guimaraes, and it wasn't that bad of a tackle. Free kick, corner, I should say, sorry, for Arsenal though, over on the far side. Left-footed in swinger to be taken by Noni Madueke, who has been heavily involved in this game so far, if maybe lacking a little bit of quality. Madueke will take the corner short again and receive the ball back from Ødegaard, and this time it's very easily defended by Newcastle, not once but twice, although Arsenal still have the ball with Gabriel Martinelli. Now Declan Rice all the way back David Raya. It does seem that Arsenal decided that today they are just going to take every set piece short, and look, it's bad enough that Newcastle already conceded from one, having been warned 2 times previously, but they can't. This isn't going to keep working. Newcastle defend that far too easily there.
No, and also if this is going to be a theme going forward, then other teams are going to be doing their research and they'll be prepared for it next time Arsenal want to do it against any other opposition. Meanwhile, we're going to see changes here for Newcastle. Harvey Barnes is getting ready to come on.
Yeah, he is, and that's the sort of injection of pace I think Newcastle need in this one.
Do you reckon it's for Willock or for Ramsey? Because I suppose that the Willock one would be like for like, but I think Willock's playing well. I would be more inclined to take off Ramsey and put Willock back into the midfield 3.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think Jacob Ramsey's a left winger. I really don't. And I don't think Willock's a left winger either. So I think it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up in terms of who you fancy in the midfield. To be brutally honest, I think you can do either or. But yeah, I'm sure Eddie Howe will find a way to surprise me. He normally does, the former Bournemouth manager. Johan Wissa also ready to come on as well. That, you'd assume, he's going to be a light flight change for Asula.
Yes, I mean, he's hardly had no service, so bringing Wissa on, whether or not he's going to be a little bit more mobile than Asula, maybe a little bit quicker down the channels, but Newcastle have had very little chance to get anything to Asula in the second half.
No, they haven't. As Declan Rice picks the ball up for Arsenal. Back now to Gabriel. All the way back to David Raya. His huge goal has gone in at Wembley. Southampton potentially to cause, I was going to say the upset of all upsets. We had Macclesfield beating Crystal Palace earlier in this year's FA Cup, but one of the big upsets in FA Cup history. Southampton could be about to see themselves to the final of the FA Cup. 10 minutes to go in that one, and they're 1-0 up.
Yeah, they are. Finn Azaz has scored for Southampton. That's after Southampton have had about 4 efforts in total. One of them has been on target. City have had over 20 shots in that game, but it is now Southampton that take the lead with just over 10 minutes to go plus injury time. I mean, Macclesfield beating Palace is a huge shock, but I'll break off from that because here come Arsenal.
Yeah, great run from Declan Rice. Oh, he should have pulled the trigger. Drove into the penalty area and then just ran into Malik Chiao, having broken past a couple of Newcastle midfielders. Huge opportunity for Declan Rice. Now here come the visitors. Ball down the line near side for Asula. Turns away from Hincapié. He's still going here, Asula. Lays it off, or tries to lay it off to Willock. Pass intercepted. It falls to Tonali from 40 yards out. Blocked comfortably and put out a play for a throw over on the far side.
Yeah, throwing on the far side, a chance now for Newcastle to try and have at least a little bit of attacking possession. But yeah, Madueke did the same thing in the first half. He was 7 or 8 yards out from goal and wants another touch before he shoots. And there, Rice, he just put your laces through it. You're about 10, 11 yards out, and yet he's still trying to find a pass, taking too long. And now we're going to see a double change here for Newcastle. Jacob Murphy is going off to be replaced by Harvey Barnes.
Yeah, so Murphy off for Barnes, and then Wissa on. Just trying to make out who it is that he's coming off.
I mean,
it's coming off. It's Asula.
It is Asula, yeah.
Yeah. Again, he's shown patches. Asula. It's just not enough, is it?
No, not enough. It's particularly in the second half. He was involved in the first half, but he's barely had a chance to get involved in the second half. And now we're going to see a long throw here for Newcastle from the left-hand side.
Yeah, it will be a long throw launched in from their left-hand side towards the near post, headed away well by Gabriel, and then further cleared all the way to halfway. And there's a race on here. Gyökeres up against Tonali. Tonali gets there first, but he's still under pressure from the Swedish international. Again, you'd have to say they're far too close to the sideline there, Nicolas Jova and Mikel Arteta. I don't have a problem with managers like getting involved and stepping out, but when there's a player right in front of you, you have to be back inside that technical area.
No, you do, and it's been going on for too long. This isn't the first time we've seen that. What a crunching challenge that is, though, in the middle of the park there from Ramsey, but no foul, and Arsenal have the ball back.
Yeah, they do, and they switch it over onto the far side where Madueke can pick it up, but the flag immediately goes up for offside, which surprises me. I thought they were meant to keep it down, or at least they were keeping it down in the Liverpool game. Plenty of times Palace players were played through and the flag was kept down, and to be fair, it happened a few times for Liverpool as well. It was a really odd game earlier on, it has to be said, at 3 o'clock, in which Liverpool picked up all 3 points, winning by 3-1. Former Newcastle United man Alexander Isak getting his first goal back after injury. As Willock now picks the ball up for the visitors. Feeds Malik Chiao. Will move it into Bruno Guimaraes. And Lewis Miley's made a move down the line, as has Harvey Barnes. It's the latter that picks up possession. Now here's Bruno Guimaraes, pointing where he wants Harvey Barnes. Barnes then has it back. Barnes down the line for Miley. Ball into the box, easily headed away by Gabriel. Martinelli can gather for the home side.
Yeah, just to tell you, it's the dream for Southampton lasted 3.5 minutes. Man City have a goal back through Jeremy Doku.
Still time. It will, of course, go to extra time and penalties.
Extra time as it stands, yes. So they're certainly not all over in that game. But if Southampton thought they were going to win it in 90, City have other ideas. There's a ball played through towards Wissa. He couldn't quite control it, but then Barnes almost did before Arsenal get the ball away. It's still only 1-0, so Arsenal are going to get tense now as we get close towards the end of this game. Yeah,
you feel like they have to go and get a second at some point here, Arsenal. I know Newcastle haven't exactly penetrated, but they need to kill this game off, because Newcastle won't go away. They're not the type of side to just bend over and give up. Are they maybe making another change here, the Magpies, or is that just Ramsey running to the near side to get to the ring?
We saw Ramsey running across. I don't think he's going off yet before this free kick anyway. There'll be a chance now for Guimaraes to get into the box.
Yeah, opportunity for Bruno Guimaraes to float this one into the penalty area. Everybody up from the back. Everybody back for Arsenal. Oh dearie me. I'm going to say cross floated into the box. He's just fired that straight into the hands of David Raya, who sets Gabriel Martinelli away down the far side, driving forward. Held up well by Sandro Tonali. But ball played back to Ben White. White has plenty of options on the left-hand side. Chooses to throw the ball forward to Ødegaard instead. Now back to Gabriel Martinelli. Thought about the cross. Instead will hold on to it. Here's Zubimendi. Corner of the penalty area. Back to Martinelli once again. Now it's with Saliba. Across to Declan Rice. Rice asking for options to show for him. He'll feed Gabriel. Gabriel now again looking for options around him. Lays it off to Zubimendi. Zubimendi into Ødegaard. Ødegaard down the line for Madueke. Madueke one-on-one with Jacob Ramsey. Now here's Martin Ødegaard. Floats the ball in towards the penalty area. Gyökeres brings it out. Martinelli with the effort. Blocked inside the penalty area. Still though Arsenal come forward. Rice. Left-hand side for Hincapié. Hincapié back to the edge of the box for Declan Rice once more. Zubimendi tries to turn it around the corner. Challenge comes in and Arsenal have to restart deeper, closer towards their own half. But still they move it forward. Hincapié. Into Martinelli, back to Hincapié once again. Martinelli thought about floating the ball, instead will hold on to it and go back to Hincapié. Hincapié held up well by Lewis Miley. Gabriel, and now back to Declan Rice, and Arsenal forced towards halfway by the away side once more. Just to say that Gabriel almost loses out to Joe Willock, and indeed in the end Gabriel Martin does lose out to Joe Willock, and then that's going to be a yellow card. Sam Barrett's got a bit of sorting out to do here, because Martinelli hacked down Joe Willock, and then Zubimendi was caught after the fact by Johan Wissa. But either way, we are into the final quarter of this one. Fascinating game so far at the Emirates. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary is Arsenal 1, Newcastle United 0, and it's Paul to take us through to full-time.
Thank you very much, Luke. Yeah, yellow card there for Martinelli for that challenge. Mikel Arteta still pacing around nervously on the touchline there. Just trying to get some further instructions out to his players as the former Arsenal man Willock takes this free kick, just rolling it back towards Malik Thiaw. He then plays it for, that's an awful ball. It's cut out immediately by Gabriel, but he couldn't control it and is back with Lewis Miley anyway. So at this stage, Newcastle have possession back inside their own half, but slip there from Bruno Guimaraes, and that's given the ball away here to Ødegaard. He's heading towards the penalty area. There he goes back to Zubimendi, who clips that one in, supposedly for Gyökeres. But he's looking back at Zubimendi saying, I want that on the deck, and in the end it goes behind Gyökeres and out for a goal kick.
Yeah, no, that's really poor from Martin Zubimendi. I mean, it's terrible from Bruno Guimaraes. We mentioned about players going down with injuries. I've not seen players slip more often, ever, in the Premier League than what I have done this season. Every game, players are slipping all over the place.
I think it's a combination of the boots being very light, the studs, they're sort of more like sort of these incisors rather than proper football boots, and also the pitches. I mean, the pitches are only sort of half grass and half artificial these days, and they get watered, to get absolutely saturated to have a slick playing surface, but it does mean that players are potentially going to have a little bit of trouble keeping their balance. And we saw the Arsenal fans' faces when that goal went in from when it was scored by Berchi Eze. When we saw the Arsenal fans there, they looked so delighted. There was almost like just joy and relief at the same time. We've just had some shots of the fans again, and they look in a little bit worried now, I have to say. And the Southampton fans will be worried as I quickly just change subject, because Nico Gonzalez has just scored for Man City on 87 minutes. So it looks like 3 goals in the last 15 minutes of that game, or 3 goals even in the last 11 minutes of that game, potentially putting City in the final. Yeah,
looks like that. Potentially he's done and dusted. We came very close to an upset, didn't we?
We did indeed, but here come Arsenal now with Madueke into the penalty area. Zubimendi goes for it first time, and we've criticised Arsenal for not going for goal early enough. This time Zubimendi wants to hit it first time after the pass from Madueke, but he gets blocked.
Yeah, he does get blocked. Good bit of defending in the end, but Newcastle far too open. Again, susceptible to the counter-attack. Said it in the first half, it's been the case in the second half. Talk about the nerves from the Arsenal fans. The amount of times I've seen pundits over the course of this title race saying the fans fans have got to play their part. They've got to, get behind the team. At the end of the day, teams have got to give fans a reason to get up. And the problem that Arsenal have got is games like this, they are far better than Newcastle. Go and put 2 or 3 past them. Do you know what I mean? Go kill the game off. Let the fans get excited. Instead, they have to sit there from the 9th minute, nervous that whether their team are going to be able to hold on.
Nick Pope! He's going to get sent off.
He's got to go there.
He's going to get sent off here. Nick Pope. He's got previous for this. The referee Sam Barrett. Well, the Newcastle players are trying to defend their goalkeeper. He's going to get a yellow card. He's very lucky there, Nick Pope. Let's not forget that he actually missed the final a few years ago for Newcastle because of the fact that he got suspended because he flew out and got himself a red card a couple of weeks before the final. But we would look at this as it's played over the top. Gyökeres is checking. He's got no right going for that, Nick Pope, and then he misses it as well. I mean, in fairness, Malik Chur is going to get to that ball before Gyökeres is, but it looks so bad from Nick Pope.
I haven't got a problem with him going for it, but it goes back to my point earlier. He's so uncomfortable with the ball at his feet. He's got no idea what he's doing. It's so poor. I do genuinely. I don't understand how in this day and age the goalkeeper can be so uncomfortable with anything other than the ball in his hands. That is dreadful. What is he doing?
It's awful. It's awful from Nick Pope. He does get a yellow card. He certainly deserves it. And we did actually get the purple VAR screen on our TV pictures for a few seconds.
He's saved because of Chow getting back there,
yes, he absolutely is. He absolutely is. But there's going to be another change here for Newcastle. They can sense that Arsenal are getting more and more nervous, albeit their goalkeeper, Newcastle's goalkeeper, has just shown a fair amount of nerves. But now the hobbling Bruno Guimaraes is off, and it's Nick Woltemade to replace him.
Yeah, there's been talk, hasn't there? One of Tonali or Bruno Guimaraes is more than likely going to leave the club in the summer. I think both of them could go, because I don't know what you think, Paul. I think Tonali looks tired. I think Bruno Guimaraes tonight has looked like he doesn't really want to be there.
Yeah, it does seem like there's this is a turning point, well, sort of an important moment for Newcastle. Do they keep their coaching team from the last few years? Do they persevere with this squad or have wholesale changes? And as we mentioned earlier, there may still be some further thinking in the background in terms of how Newcastle are going to be financed going forward as well. So there's a lot of things going on. You mentioned in the first half that we're likely to see Bukayo Saka at some point. He is ready to come on now. So in the next couple of minutes, we are going to see Bukayo Saka on the field for Arsenal. But first is this free kick whipped in by Rice. Oh, it's got too much pace. It's going too close to the 6-yard box. Nobody in a red shirt was close to it. And it's out for a goal kick. Rice looks frustrated. So is this a bad ball or is this nobody tracking it properly?
No, it's a bad ball.
It is a bad ball, isn't it? Yeah.
No, you can't fizz it in that deep with that much pace. A ball like that is not there to be fizzed in with that much pace because you're hitting it from too far out. It is a bad ball, and he can be as frustrated as he likes, Declan Rice, but I don't think he can have any complaints whatsoever. Disappointing to say the least. He's not had a great game. I think Arsenal at the end of the day will, at the minute they look like they're going to come away with all 3 points because they took their chance. But I've not seen. In fact, you know what? I was going to say I've not seen many. I've not seen a title-winning side like this ever. I really haven't. Who every single game they look like they're playing to save their lives. It's hard to watch, I think.
It is hard to watch, but I think it's also the dynamic of the situation that they've had a big lead. I mean, bearing in mind that when Man City went top of the league in the week, it was the first time that they were top since late August. So Arsenal really have been bossing the top of the league for a very long time, and now that it's almost been taken away from them, and now they just have to sort of hope for the best with winning all their games and seeing what happens. It makes the dynamic slightly different, I think, for Mikel Arteta's side. But yeah, I agree. I think for the amount of attacking flair and for the amount of attacking promise that Arsenal have, I think they will be disappointed that they can't do more. But they are going forward here now with Madueke. He's been well tracked though by Dan Burn. Madueke gets the ball back and he rolls it towards Ben White. Now it's with Odegaard. Right hand edge of the penalty area. Odegaard, he runs straight into 3 Newcastle players, and the 3 of them combined are able to dispossess him. It's with Sandro Tonali now, square to Dan Burn back to Botman, who's getting closed down here by Gyökeres. He's running out of space here, Botman. He does clear it, does stay in play. He's done all right on this occasion, particularly seeing as Zubamendi then knocks that one out, and it's going to be a throw to Newcastle.
Yeah, you talk about the attacking flair and the attacking potential. I think on paper we look at it and we go, they've got some really good attackers. You know, I think we're all in agreement that Bukayo Saka's a fantastic player. We enjoy Madueke, Gabriel Jesus, Victor Gyökeres, Martinelli, but it comes back to it. They don't like to. Is it they don't like to attack, or or is it Mikel Arteta doesn't know how to coach an attack? I don't know, but this is why they are always so nervous, because it's a case of, right, let's get the goal and let's defend. I've never seen a title-winning team like attempt to win a league title by winning every game 1-0. But Arsenal would be happy doing that. And look, at the end of the day, if they lift the trophy at the end of the season, who cares how they did it? I've tried to say that as much as possible. It doesn't matter. As long as you've got your hands on the trophy, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't, and I suppose a little bit before your time, but you'll be very aware, of course, that there used to be a football chart saying 1-0 to the Arsenal, because that's how they used to win their games. And certainly the George Graham title-winning side of the late 80s and going into the early 90s, that is exactly how they play. But the risk is, if you only have one goal, there's a chance. There's Voltemar that puts it into Wissa over the bar. Well, as we were talking about the fact that Arsenal winning games 1-0 is a bit of a risk, Newcastle got a bit of attacking possession, and it was Joe Willock who had far too much space. Voltemar in the playmaker role. Nobody's offside when that ball's played to Wissa, but he has skied that over the bar.
He's got to score. He's got to score. A player who cost, £50 million in the summer has got to score. He has got to score, and that was, potentially the title there and then. It really was. He had to find the back of the net, and I've been critical of Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall. I think they've done a lot of things wrong in recent weeks and months. But sometimes you have got to look at a manager and go, when you're under pressure and your £50 million strikers are missing chances like that, you sit there and you go, what more can you do?
Well, I mean, I suppose Wissa on form last season, playing for Brentford, you'd have expected him to score that. But then it's, he's had a bad season with injuries. Double change now for Arsenal. Noni Madueke is off, Bukayo Saka is on, and Martin Zubamendi is off, and Miles Lewis-Skelly is on.
Yeah, good to see Miles Lewis-Skelly. Big fan of his. I think he needs to look for a move away in the summer because he's clearly not favoured by Mikel Arteta.
What's his best position?
It's a left back. He's a fantastic left back, and I really, really like him. And I think this season has come at a horrible time for him because he should be starting at the World Cup for England, and instead he's been usurped by Nico O'Reilly. And we might end up with a situation a little bit like we do at right back, where we've got so many talented players at left back that just don't get to play because Nico O'Reilly's that good. I'm going to break off.
Yeah, because here is Saka going for goal as well. He gets into the penalty area, turns and fires. There is a deflection on the effort. Is there? I mean, certainly Arsenal was suggesting that there was, and yes, the referee agrees. That is going to be a corner kick to the Gunners. They're into the 6th minute of added time at Wembley. Man City still lead against Arsenal by 2-1, so there's only going to be another minute or so to play in that game. It looks like City have got out of jail after Southampton took the late lead in that game before City equalised, and now they've taken the lead late on. And of course, the winner of that game will play the winner of tomorrow's semi-final when Leeds United take on Chelsea. That is a 3 o'clock kickoff, and that will be on our service. But right now we've got this corner kick for Arsenal from the left-hand side. It's going to be whipped in here by Declan Rice. 2 or 3 waiting inside that penalty area. Rice goes towards the back post. It's headed down. It's going to drop it potentially to... Oh, it's an overhead kick as well there from Martinelli after his first effort was blocked. He gets it on target, but it's straight at the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever on there, the overhead kick. I think he's got to show a bit more presence of mind. Just nod it down to Lewis-Skelly. Let him have a swing at it from a better angle. But again, corners proving fruitful for Arsenal. Not far away at all on that occasion.
No, not far away at all. And we're into the last 8 minutes now before we hit injury time here at the Emirates. And it's Newcastle pushing forward again. Are Arsenal going to regret the fact that they've only got a 1-goal lead? And they got that 1-goal lead so early in this game as well. Not really had too many clear-cut chances to extend it. They've had enough possession, wasted a couple of opportunities, but actually Pope's not really had too many saves to make.
No, he hasn't. Again, I'll just keep going back to I hate being critical of a team that are top of the league and look good for going on to or at least within a range of winning the league title, but I don't I don't think they're helping themselves. That's the problem with Arsenal. I really don't think they're helping themselves.
Well, here come Newcastle. They're helping themselves to a bit of an attack here down the left-hand side. The cross comes in. It's a header from Dan Burn, who's playing almost as the emergency striker, a la Mertesacker, of course, the former Arsenal man. It was played down Lewis Miley down the right-hand side in towards Barnes, and it's a decent ball in from Barnes.
Yeah, it's a great ball in from Harvey Barnes. I think Dan Burn's got to do better. I think he's got to read the flight of the ball better.
He's not powered into that ball, really, has he?
No, he hasn't. Can I just say, by the way, I've just watched a Premier League centre-half let the ball bounce as that ball's gone over the top, and here come Arsenal on the attack.
Yeah.
What on earth have I just watched?
Well, it's given Arsenal a gift of possession in front of goal. It's Odegaard now into the penalty area. Gyökeres turns, he goes for goal, and Botman at least makes up a little bit of a mistake there and then deflects that out for a corner.
He's just stood there and let it bounce as the ball's coming over the top. I know Gyökeres is backing into him. Don't worry about the speed. You're a Premier League footballer. Go and win the header. Go head it away. Don't worry about the man being behind you. You should have the presence of mind and the confidence in your ability that you can judge the flight of the ball and head it away. I mean, what on earth? It might not sound that crazy of things, the ball's bounce, but that should never, ever happen on a Premier League pitch.
It is absolutely a
criminal.
Absolutely a cardinal sin for defenders. They always have to judge that ball a lot better than what they are. Just by the way, it has now finished at Wembley. Man City, with a bit of a scare, have got through to the final. And now it's Ben White who's down on the ground. And the Newcastle players are furious because they feel that he's just doing this to waste time. The referee certainly isn't bothered about although he is now calling players over to have a bit of a word with them.
Nick Voltsmart is furious.
He is. I mean, let's have a look at Ben White here. I mean, he is pushed by Malik Dior, but not enough to hit the deck in the way that he just has. And I can see why the referee, why the players aren't happy with the referee, because this is just time being wasted.
This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. I do feel for these Newcastle players. Sam Barrett has not had a grip of this game from minute one, I don't think.
No, he's allowed certain things to go, and at other times he's not really sort of come down on the right side in terms of players pushing and shoving. But it's an in-swinging ball now from Saka towards the back post. There's big Dan Burn again, gets the header in. Second ball is now here with Declan Rice. Burn gets his body in the way, and he wins his side a free kick. And Declan Rice probably should get a yellow card for the way he sort of aggressively points his arms towards the referee. And as I say, great minds, because the referee has now booked it.
Yeah, rightly so. Players can't get away with reacting like that. It absolutely was a foul. That's a player under pressure, isn't it? That response from Declan Rice, and rightly so, booked by Sam Barrett. Joe Willock's been brought off. Francis Elanga. I feel for Joe Willock. There's a player there, but I don't think the system suits him, and so we just haven't seen him, really. He's been virtually anonymous.
Apart from that great run he had very early on in the game, where he danced past a couple of players, but other than that, you're absolutely right. He's not. Is he a central midfielder? Is he a free role? Is he a winger? He's not really any. I mean, he's probably more a central midfielder than he is anything else, but it's this system I don't think really agrees with him too much. And Elanga comes on. Whether Elanga can do anything in these last 4 minutes of regulation play it remains to be seen. The table live shows Arsenal are 3 points clear of Man City, but City, of course, have a game in hand, and Arsenal are 1 goal difference better than Man City, but City are 2 goals scored better than Arsenal. It's incredibly tight as Newcastle now lose possession when they were on the attack, and now it's quickly played out down the left-hand side here for Martinelli, heading towards the penalty area. His ball is cut back behind 2 of his teammates, but it will still be kept alive here by Odegaard. He goes back to Gabriel. Now it's Saliba. Over towards White on the right-hand side. He's got Madueke just ahead of him. Saka just ahead of him. Saka now heading into the penalty area, and he thought about the shot. He tees it up for Odegaard, who goes for goal near post, and it's a decent save there from Pope. He should be saving that, really. Pushes it out for a corner.
Yeah, good stop from Nick Pope. And like you said, it's one you'd expect him to make, but the ball does move back in towards that near post, and he reads it well, palms it away, out for a corner. Good play from Saka to open the space up. Yeah, it was definitely swerving in, actually. Credit to Nick Pope there. Maybe I was being a little bit too dismissive of that, because he needed to get strong hands onto that one. Corner kick now to Arsenal from the right-hand side. It's going to be an in-swinger from that man again, Bukayo Saka. Pushing and shoving inside the 6-yard box as per usual.
So the referee is allowing this corner kick to now be taken. It's Saka's ball into the 6-yard box, just over the head of Gabriel. Headed clear now by Harvey Barnes. The loose ball is still in Arsenal possession. Odegaard in towards Saka. Saka into the 6-yard box, blocked by Botman. Second ball there from Odegaard. I think he gets the final touch on that. He does, and it's out for a Newcastle goal kick.
Yeah, you just see the difference that Saka has. I never watch Saka and Madueke and think that naturally Saka is a more forward-thinking player. I don't know so whether he gets given more of a license to do it in his instructions than Madueke. I don't know, but yeah, it's an odd one. He's just so much more direct than any other Arsenal player.
He is, but this is a direct little run from Voldemar. He wins the ball inside his own half, plays it towards the edge of the area, almost gets through to Elanga, but then Wissa wins it back just inside the box. He tries to go for goal, but there's a foul against Newcastle's number 9. His arms aloft because he can't quite understand why.
No, I can't either. That looked to me like Hincapié just went down under a bit of pressure having stepped on the ball. Let's have a look from the replay. Gabriel gets caught all over the place. There's a bit of a shoulder in the back, isn't there? It's accidental, but there is in the back.
I don't think he knows too much about that, though, in fairness, Johan Wissa.
Nope.
That in of itself doesn't mean it's not a foul, of course. Just doing something unintentionally can still be classed as a foul. So in that sense, the referee has still got it right, but it's a free kick to Arsenal now, just inside their own penalty area. We're into the last minute of the regulation 90. I'm expecting probably 4 or 5 minutes added. I don't think it'll be much more than that, so we'll have to wait and see whether or not Arsenal can withstand any more Newcastle attacks, or whether the Gunners indeed can find a way of getting a second goal themselves, just to take a bit of the pressure off. But it's Ben White's ball down the right-hand side. In theory, it's for Saka. There's a foul from Saka as well there on Dan Burn, but he won't make too much of a meal of that because Newcastle want to restart play as quickly as possible.
Yeah, 100%. I reckon we've probably got 6 minutes of added on time at the end of this second half. There's plenty of time for Newcastle to get an equaliser. The problem is they just haven't looked like getting one all afternoon. But again, those nervous faces are out for Arsenal. It can't be easy for the players to. I mean, surely some of them must sit there and think we should be putting these teams away and not be going through this every single week, because that's why you end up in the run that they're in, 1 win in 5, because they're not putting these teams away, and it does grate on you mentally, and it does eventually get to a point where you are mentally drained, and it isn't enough. 7 minutes added on at the end of the half.
7 minutes. It's probably a couple of minutes more than what I was expecting, a minute more than what you were expecting, but in any case, there's still plenty of time in this game. Which does put a fair amount of extra pressure, I think, on Arsenal here, unless, of course, they're able to use the 7 minutes to try and get this game wrapped up. But it's now with Ramsey here on the left-hand side. Ball played forward, but that one is easily blocked there just inside his own half by William Saliba. Now to Odegaard, to Ben White, being closed down here. Johan Wissa just going a square towards Gabriel. Closed down there by Voldemar. Then he lifts that ball over the halfway line, taken down here by Malik Thiaw. Inside now to Lewis Miley, back towards Sandro Tonali again, as the visitors now want to pile on a bit more pressure here. Arsenal are psychologically always going to be backing off a little bit when they have got the 1-0 lead, but it's just going to encourage Newcastle even more as Burn tries to play a ball through on the overlap to Barnes, deflected out for a throw in an attacking position. Yeah,
it is in an attacking position. Mikel Arteta's nervy. He's almost watching this game through gritted teeth. Now, I talk about style of play, talk about the fans being nervous. The manager seemingly being that nervous, I can't imagine is great for a player. That must be difficult to try and play through.
Here comes the long ball from Bird. It's too long, in fact. It ends up being catching practice there for David Raya. Makes a comfortable save and then pushes that ball out maybe a little bit too soon, because Arsenal players weren't even in position for a counter-attack, but Rice does well to play that ball forward. Hincapié then on the overlap wants to get away from Elanga. Elanga just about does enough with his body to stop Hincapié without a foul. Then the ball is played through the middle. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned that David Raya is a bit too urgent sometimes. It was literally proof of that. Just
why is he balled that out there? I know I'm talking about, killing games off. Forget that now. You're in stoppage time of a must-win game to put the pressure back on C. Don't start playing for goals now. You've had your chance to go and get your second earlier in the game. Now it's about managing the game. It's the wrong things at the wrong time. Why is he running around? Slow it down. Calm it down. You've got Gyökeres on the pitch. pump it long. He's not going to be up against any of the tall defenders because they're up for the throw-in. So you take your time, you pump it long, and you get the ball down the other end of the field. Rather than, the game becoming frantic, they're lucky that the foul was given away against Voltemata because Newcastle were away otherwise.
They were, absolutely. And it's just too quick there from Raya. Puts Arsenal immediately under pressure as the long ball in towards the penalty area is cleared back into midfield. But Newcastle still in possession here now with Tonali down the right-hand side for Elanga. It's got two Arsenal players trying to close him down, but Elanga taking on Hincapi, getting away from Hincapi. Hincapi coming back at Elanga and just about doing enough to win the ball without taking out the man. And then it's cleared by Hincapi over the halfway line. And suddenly it breaks here for Arsenal. Gyökeres, if he looks up, there's a goal. He's wasted that chance. All he's got to do is just get that ball through to Saka, and he's one-on-one inside the penalty area, but his pass deflects off Jacob Ramsey.
Yeah, poor from Victor Gyökeres. We've done this throughout the game, haven't I? Havertz would have done that better. Gyökeres would have done that better. On that occasion, you trust Havertz to try and play the ball through. So it's not great from Victor Gyökeres.
I'd like to think that anyone who's regarded as a Premier League forward in that situation should be finding that teammate, really.
You'd have thought a £60 million striker could play that pass. You're absolutely right. I'm maybe not giving him enough slack, but it's just one of those, isn't it?
It is, and now we've got still got 3 minutes of injury time to play. It is Newcastle back in possession in front of the Arsenal goal. It's Tonali's ball into the penalty area. Wissa heads it down, but then the loose ball lands with Hincapi, who then just slams that as far as he can over the halfway line. Nick Pope is out of his goal, and so we've got shots of an Arsenal fan. Poor lady's now covering her eyes when she realises that Newcastle have the ball back again, but the nervous tension is there for all to see, not just the players but the fans. And now it's spreading here because Malik Thiaw pings a ball out towards the left when there was no player within 10 yards of it.
Yeah, terrible for Malik Thiaw, but you can see what this is doing to the players, right? Thiaw just booted that ball out of play, and Ødegaard saying, right, to the crowd, like, get up, like, help us. He's so messy. I mean, this today, like they're set for 3 points today. Fantastic, because it puts the pressure back on Manchester City, and that's exactly what Arsenal need to do. They just need to keep putting the pressure on City. If they answer, they answer. There's nothing you can do. But it's been a mess from Arsenal today in terms of seeing out what should have been a comfortable victory against a side who are in absolute turmoil.
No, they are, and Newcastle give the ball away there, Voltemata, but then Rice, 2 passes later, gives the ball away himself. It's now back with the Magpies, and it's Tonali in towards Lewis Miley now, heading on down the right-hand side. He's at the edge of the area. There's an overlap here from Thiaw. Newcastle are going forward in numbers now, back with Miley into the penalty area. That cross is too deep, no chance for Wissa there, but it's going to be kept alive on the left-hand side now by Dan Burn. He goes square to Jacob Ramsey. Ramsey back into the middle now for Sandro Tonali. He's thought about winding up the shot. He does wind up the shot, and it's deflected by Lewis Skelly out for a corner.
Yeah, Tonali, I've said time and time again in this game that Newcastle have needed somebody to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and drag them forward. Tonali's been that player on so many occasions. He's doing so again this afternoon, willing his team forward. Burns up in the penalty area, Botman there as well. You'd assume Chow's in there. He is indeed. They've got big players on the pitch, Newcastle. They have the options to aim for. This has to be a good delivery.
Yeah, Nick Pope thought about coming up, but he's not for the time being. It's not a good delivery, though. I don't know why you'd bother having an outswinger at that low level from Elanga there. He does really well to track back and at least keep the ball away from Martinelli, who was trying to start a counter-attack. Then it's Pope's long ball towards the Arsenal penalty area. It's nodded clear, and now there's an overlap here for Arsenal down the left-hand side of the former Declan Rice. He's being tracked here by Miley, but he gets there ahead of the ball. Miley almost trips himself there, and then Rice turns and crosses that ball in, but it's a hit and hope. He doesn't actually look to see where his teammates are.
Why doesn't he go to the corner? Again, you've had your chance to get the 2 goals. Play the game. Take it to the corner. Why has he swung that ball in and given Newcastle the ball back straight away? Get to the corner. No disrespect to Lewis Miley. If Declan Rice can't hold off Lewis Miley for 20 seconds in the corner, we've got a problem. Do you know what I mean?
I completely agree. It just seems like he was
ludicrous.
Yeah, it's that sort of 50-50 with Arsenal. Do they go for the second just to really wrap the game up, or do they just kill time? Well, now they've lost the ball in midfield. We've had the full 7 minutes, but we may still have, there's going to be a foul here from Hincapié, and it's going to be a free kick to Newcastle in a decent position.
Yeah, it is in a decent position, and this is where you send Nick Pope up, isn't it? And I know you could argue this game doesn't really mean anything. Newcastle haven't got anything to play for. That's not the point. You send the goalkeeper up. My prayers have been answered. I love it when the goalkeeper comes up, and the goalkeeper has been sent up. Arteta's trying to G up the fans. He is nervous. You can see on the sideline he is panicking in that dugout. This needs to be a good ball in though for Newcastle.
It does. This will be the last chance of the game. There's absolutely no doubt about that. It's going to be Sandro Tonali to get the ball in. Arsenal have set up just in front of the penalty spot with their offside line. Here comes the ball from Tonali. It's too low. It's nodded clear. There won't be any more time. Sam Barrett ends the game. Look at Arteta. He's delighted there, but that's probably more relief than delight from the Arsenal manager. They've just about got the game over the line, beating Newcastle by 1-0. Thank you very much for joining us.
Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck